Hey everybody, so we're going to be walking through the Codequest Academy problem Anagram Checker. Anagram Checker, if you take a look at it, is exactly what it sounds like. It checks if two words are an anagram. To be an anagram, you have to have the same letters in the word, just in a different order. So as usual, I went down here to the sample input and sample output and kind of looked at those. I didn't look at them closely enough, and I didn't really read the directions very well, and I got this wrong the first time I submitted it. And the reason why is because of this line right here. Keep in mind that in order to really be considered an anagram, the two words have to be different. So this last one, Mike and Mike, was screwing up my problem. When I first submitted it to Codequest Academy, it didn't work, but then I reread it. So you do actually, I do recommend still starting with input-output, but you do want to go back and actually read the problem description after you do that, just to make sure you got those details in there, okay? Especially if you submit it and it's not working. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started on this. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to get the number of cases. So going back to the problem, let me move that back over for a second. Codequest pretty much always starts with a number, and that number represents the number of lines of input that's going to be there. So if we would have seen a 5 here, we would have seen 5 lines of input following it. You would have seen 500, there would be 500 under there, etc. Here there's 11 lines of input, which is why you see that 11 there. So let's go ahead and capture that. So I'm going to go ahead and just make it look more like we've been doing in class lately. So any variable name you want, I'm going to call cases, because that's like how many cases there are, or how many input lines, and then I'm just gonna get it. Okay, so a couple things I am gonna do just to make sure that this works right. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add this extra function called rstrip. Rstrip just takes off any extra spaces that might have been grabbed by input, okay? The other thing I'm gonna do, you've seen this before in my class, is we wanna make sure that this is stored as a number. So I'm going to put that int in front of it. Remember, if you don't put that int, it stores it as like the letter 11 or something like that. Okay? All right, so pretty much every line of Codequest, every Codequest problem can start with a line very similar to that, if not exactly that. Next, I'm going to have a for loop, and I'm going to loop through all the lines of input based on that variable right there. So I'm going to say for I in range cases. Bam. Okay? All right, so if cases is 11, this for loop will run 11 times, etc. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and, in this for loop, get more of the input. I'm going to get each line of input and store it. Let's store it in a variable called line, because that's what it is. We're grabbing lines of input. Okay, and just to be safe, this will probably work without it, but just to be safe, let's put another rstrip on there to throw out any extra spaces in there. Okay? All right, so again, these 3 lines are going to be in pretty much every Codequest problem, so yeah, take a picture. All right, so in this particular Codequest problem, we are going to need to kind of look at this as 2 parts. Like I see this part is the first part, and then you got the second part that prints out anagram or not an anagram. So I'm going to actually create 2 lists here to hold that. I'm going to have like the first part, and you'll see me do this a lot, like I'm adding like extra storage to hold on to things, and we'll reassemble at the end of the problem. So I do this a lot in the Codequest problems that I work on, okay? So again, these are just going to hold pieces of them, and then we're going to put them back together. So speaking of pieces, we do need to split this up. So let's talk about the fact that we need to like separate pots and stop, right, by that bar in the middle, and look at them separately. So let me show you a trick. Python has this pretty cool thing called split, okay? So we're going to go ahead and create 2 variables. You can call them anything you want, like x1, x2, whatever, or xy or whatever. They're not really numbers. Let's just say first and second, okay? So these are just storage boxes, and what we're going to do is we're going to take line, that variable we just stored our line in, and we're going to split it up. We're going to like tear it apart and put it in these 2 separate variables with this cool function called the split function. So I'm going to say line.split this time, and split, you tell it what to split it by. So in this case, a pipe symbol, but Codequest sometimes have you split by commas are really common, dots, those kind of things. So we're going to split it up and sort to two separate variables named first and second, okay? All right, so let's put, I'm going to actually go back and, because if you take a look here, we do actually want the whole thing. See stop pots? We do want stop pots into, we want to hold on to that. So let me actually, before we even split it up, let's put that in there. I'm going to say first part, dot append. We've been using that in class lately. Append means like take a list and shove something in it. So remember, a list is like a box with slots in it. This one's empty right now, but we just put our first box in, our first slot in there. So append is going to continuously like shove things in here. So we're going to shove stop pots, whatever, in there. And you know what? Let's take care of this equal sign they have here too. So if you take a look here, see this equal sign? Let's get that in there too. So I'm going to use this special thing called concatenation, okay? Just basically plus. It's exactly what you think it is. It's like adding two things, adding two parts of a word together. Now be very, very careful about the spaces in that equal sign. See this guy right there? You definitely need that because there is a space right there. These things are graded by computers, so it's going to be really, it doesn't know the difference between a space and an equals, but it knows that something, you know, it's going to be able to tell if it's there or not. It doesn't comprehend what it's doing, but it knows it's supposed to be there. Okay, so just be really careful about spaces because these aren't graded by humans. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to put these words in order. I'm going to put these words into alphabetical order, which is going to like totally make them nonsense words, but you know what? It's going to be able to tell once they're in order if they equal each other, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take whatever's in first, or whatever's in this first variable, and I'm going to sort it with this special variable. Okay? And I'm going to store it back in itself. So if you don't like this, you could just create a new variable here, like sort word 1 or something like that, if that makes you uncomfortable. But I do think it actually is a little more elegant if you just recycle that variable, so you don't have to juggle as many variables. So I'm sorting the variable and I'm putting it back in the same variable. Okay, so again, putting these in alphabetical order, which doesn't make it any more comprehensible, but who cares? So second is sorted second. Okay, great. So we put these in alphabetical order, so we should be able to tell, basically, stop in alphabetical order is O-P-S-T, and then pots in alphabetical order is O-P-S-T. So if those words are equal, you know that they're in an anagram. So let's literally check if they're equal. So I'm going to say if first equals second, I'm going to go ahead and append the word anagram. Like I'm going to actually put this word, right? I'm going to put this word into our list, our second part list. And otherwise I'm going to put the word not an anagram in there. So I'm going to go ahead and say second part dot append, and I'm going to append the word anagram. Okay? And then otherwise I'm going to second part dot append not an anagram. Okay? And then finally, at the end, I need to like push the stuff back together. So I have this first part, which is just like stop pots and an equal sign. Second part is actually like, is it an anagram or not? So here's where I print the stuff back out. I'm going to move all the way back because I'm not getting input anymore. So it's a fresh for loop. It's not inside that other for loop. For I in range, length of the first part. So however many things in there, that's how many things I'm going to print out. Print first part, slot I, second part, slot I. Okay? All right, let's test it. So it doesn't look like it's doing anything, but it is waiting for, like, how many things are you going to give me? So let's just test it with 2, not all 11. And I'm going to go ahead and say stop, pipe, pots. And let's do one for sure that doesn't work, which is cat, pipe, dog. Okay, so notice, it's kind of hard to see with the screencast thing here, but it does say stop pots equals anagram, cat, dog, not an anagram. So this does seem to be working, and it actually looks pretty close to the way it wants it to be outputted to. We got spaces in the right places, yeah. So this is what I submitted and got wrong because this isn't taking into account the fact that Mike and Mike, like right now if you try Mike and Mike, let's just try putting one in there, and Mike type Mike, it thinks that's an anagram, even though it says in the rules, no, if it's the same word, it's technically not. So I need to add one more if statement in here somewhere to try to figure out if the word is the exact same word, not just an anagram. This is a great place to pause the video if you've done a couple Codequest problems. You want to maybe see if you can figure out where to put that if statement to check if the words are equal, and make sure it types out not an anagram if they're exactly the same word. If you haven't done a bunch of Codequest problems, it's like your first or second, then just go ahead and stick with me, okay? So go ahead and pause if you want to try it. Otherwise, here we go. All right, so what I'm going to do right now is before I sort them, I'm going to check if they're equal. So I'm just going to have another if statement right here. If first equals second, I'm going to right away say not an anagram. Let's just go ahead and steal this line right here. Okay, and then I'm going to put all this other stuff. This only happens if this is not the case, so let's put this all in one giant else statement connected to this. So I need to bop everything over. Bink, brink, 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 and brink. There we go. Okay, so let's test it one more time. Okay, so let's do it with 3 inputs this time. So let's try stop, pots. Let's try dog, cat, which we know is not an anagram, and let's try Mike and Mike, which should not also be an anagram. Aha, it works. Okay, so I got this to work in the Codequest Academy site. Hopefully it works for you too. Let me go ahead and just demo that process too, because I've got 3 minutes left on this video, so if you don't need that, go ahead and turn me off. But if you do, go ahead and watch. So first thing you want to do, it should be saving in Thani every time. Notice I can't even save it anymore because it is saved. You can also save something like save as. I like to save it on my desktop. It's horrible practice. Just make sure you clean off your desktop once in a while because it's really easy to find. So you can see here, this one is called Anagram. You can see I did a couple of versions of it. Sure, so let's go ahead and save Anagram. Sure, let's go ahead and replace it. Okay, so it's mad that it's open in Thani, whatever. It's already saved. So let's go ahead and open up that Codequest website again. And you want to go back, back to this page and submit your solution. Okay, so select the file. And mine was called Anagram, no, just Anagram. Okay, and then upload solution. And usually if this is your first time submitting a problem for this, a problem for this problem, it'll say like judging in progress. If you wait just a couple seconds and press refresh, it'll either say solved or wrong answer, or sometimes there's something more specific as to why you didn't get it solved, but in this case, we are good to go. Okay? All right. Good luck getting in Anagram Checker.